At a time when much of New York was wild and unsettled, the British colonial government awarded a nobleman known as Lord Holland a grand parcel of land. The gift was called the Holland Patent. Today, we know Holland Patent as a village in the town of Trenton, New York, and what started out as a land grant evolved into a lovely little upstate community. And I'm going to tell you its story. Back about 22,000 years ago, a huge glacier covered New York, molding the landscape around what would become Holland Patent. Its movement sculpted the Mohawk Valley, where a river called the Mohawk flowed, draining meltwater from the glacier. By about the year 800, Native American peoples had moved into the region, and by the 1400s, the Oneida tribe of the Haudenosaunee was the dominant group living here. A great confederacy was formed by the Oneida and 4 other native tribes as a powerful alliance promoting peace and cooperation. European contact began in the early 1600s when Dutch traders and later English colonists began exploring and settling the Mohawk Valley. They brought trade, but also brought devastating diseases to Native American populations. Sometime around the 1760s, the British Crown granted over 20,000 acres, known as the Holland Patent, to a nobleman named Henry Fox, who had the title of First Baron Holland. His title is a reference to his family's Holland House estate over in London. The patent covered land that's partly in today's towns of Trenton, Floyd, Marcy, and Steuben. Following the War for Independence, many Haudenosaunee were displaced from their traditional lands due to alliances with the British, and in a large way this opened up central New York to settlement. Soon, Dutch investors formed the Holland Land Company and bought over 3 million acres in western New York. The term Holland in the company's name refers to the investors' Dutch heritage and is not associated with the earlier land grant to Lord Holland. Anyway, Garrett Boone, an agent of the Holland Land Company, came to the area of what would eventually become the village of Holland Patent. He built the first house and named the clearing Oldenbarneveld. Families started settling here, and in 1795, trustees of Lord Holland's estate sold off their land, and it was subsequently divvied up. An individual named Pascal DeAngelis bought a bunch of lots, including what would become the nucleus of the village we know today. He was one of a handful of early investors who would settle locally and play key roles in developing the community. Another early settler was Eliphalet Coates, who came with his family in an ox cart and built a log cabin. In 1797, the town of Trenton was created, with Oldenbarneveld as one of its main settlements. People started coming, particularly farmers from New England seeking fertile land. A public square was established, and it would become the heart of the village, fostering the growth of schools, churches, and social events. Mr. DeAngelis invested in sawmills, gristmills, and blacksmith shops, and built the first tavern. He and his wife, Elizabeth Webb, would go on to raise 11 children in the village. Travel at the time relied on narrow, winding native trails, including one that became Elm Street and Thompson Road. In addition, a road was surveyed from Oldenbarneveld to the Floyd line, and today it's Main Street. In 1825, the Erie Canal brought increased commerce to the region, although it did pass to the south of the village. Regardless, by the 1830s, Oldenbarneveld had developed into a small agricultural community. Hobart Hall Academy was created, and by the 1840s, 4 large stone churches stood around the village green. This is around the time the village changed its name from Oldenbarneveld to Holland Patent, a throwback to the colonial land grant. Then, the Black River and Utica Railroad passed through and connected Holland Patent more directly to nearby communities like Utica. During the Civil War, several from the village would serve. Then, the Holland Patent Union Free School District was organized and became an important institution in the growing community. Simultaneously, cheese factories and additional businesses developed. Alongside agriculture, they contributed to the region's prosperity. Grover Cleveland's relatives had roots in the settlement, and in 1876, the Clarendon Hotel opened, eventually hosting the future president himself. Around 1880, a gazebo was erected, the same one you see today, and soon the village would be officially incorporated. In 1890, the Holland Patent Railroad Station was built, and a national bank was founded. By the early 1900s, electric lights had arrived, and a fire company was formed after some devastating fires. In 1916, the local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution established a public library, initially housed in the Holland Hall building. It was the dawn of the 20th century, which saw the development of improved roads and the gradual introduction of automobiles. The Great Depression affected the local economy, but the agricultural base helped sustain things. Then World War II happened, and again many locals served in the military, while the home front also supported the war effort. Passenger rail service to the village ended in 1960, and the historic railroad station was eventually repurposed as the village hall. In the coming years, the village's residential areas expanded as it became increasingly suburban. And by the early 21st century, Holland Patent had some large farms, but also light industry. Today, Holland Patent remains a small but thriving community at the junction of state routes 274 and 365. The school system continues to be an important institution, and my brother works there. Holland Patent is more than a village. I lived on Thompson Road a few years back, and who knows, maybe I'll return someday. Have a good one.